A little bit ago, I did a Q&A on this channel answering a lot of your guys' questions, and a lot of the questions were aimed at what I thought of specific anime or characters and blah 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 blah, and much to your guys' disappointment, I had never seen the Fate series. And I got an influx of comments that video saying, Luca, you have to watch Fate. Fate is the greatest thing of all time, so I did it. I fucking watched Fate Zero and I watched Unlimited Blade Works 2. So that's what we're talking about in this video. We're talking about Fate Zero. Y'all had Faith Zero, but I did it. We're gonna be talking about the characters because the characters make the story, and at the end of the video, I'm gonna give my honest opinions on what I thought about this part of the series. Yeah, there are spoilers ahead, but if you haven't seen it, you probably won't see it anyway, so stick around. Anyway, the first character we have to talk about is the protagonist, Emia Kiritsugu. He is a loving husband, a loving father, and a loving friend. While yes, he is the protagonist of the show, goddamn does he leave a warpath. He kills his own daughter in his mind. He de facto kills his own wife. I mean, he fucks up her whole family. And that says nothing about what he did to his own father, his best friends, his childhood crush, and his mentor. The man is a fucking psychopath. But weirdly, he's super cool. He's also a mage killer, that's what he's known as, and that's pretty based. If you're a martial class, dipping maybe into a little bit of mage ability, and you kill mages, yeah, I like you. If I had to capture Emia Kiritsugu into like one idea, it's the fact that he learned about the trolley problem when he was a child, and then he made it his entire personality. Because he wants to be a hero of justice. And hero of justice to him means, yeah, absolute efficiency, kill whoever needs to be killed to save the most people. And yes, the whole point of Fate Zero is to go in and say, listen man, you can't be a hero of justice. But what would you expect from a guy who marries a literal inanimate object? Not only does he want the Grail, he really wants the Grail. Without fail though, I think he's the most interesting character in the show. He is super badass, and all of the really gripping scenes were his, because you never really knew what he would do. He's the type of lunatic you really want to cheer for. Remind you of anyone? He also has a gun. That's kind of his thing. But he also summons Sword, which is also kind of his thing. And that's where we stop for Emia Kiritsugu. We can move on to his best buddy, Kotomine Kire. I'm probably dumb as fuck, but I could not tell if this character was actually a good guy or a bad guy until he realized that he was really happy that his dad died just like his wife did. I knew nothing about the Fate lore going into this, and when I saw Kire doing anything, I was like, dude, honestly, he's just a religious guy. How bad can he be? Which segues me into my next point. He's a magic and religious Wolverine. That's how he fights. That's pretty cool, I guess. But honestly, he's not even that religious, is he? And he really just doesn't seem to have that joie de vivre in him because he wants the world to end and humanity to die. I'm not really sure why. And then at the end of the series, he was granted an artificial heart by the Grail. This was super glossed over, and I had to go into the wiki to understand anything that was fucking happening there. But more on all that later, that will be at the end of the video. Next up, we've got Tosaka Tokiyomi. He's a big fan of knowledge. Not only that, but he takes sharing is caring to another level because he has 2 daughters, one of which he gives away remorselessly, and meanwhile his other daughter grows up to be an incredibly cringe anime character that I'm sure a lot of people like, but more on that in the Fate Unlimited Blade Works video. In regard to his strength as a mage, he uses stones. That's pretty lame, I don't care what you think. And he wasn't actually that strong considering his fire ability actually just killed Fate/Zero people. But there's really not too much to say about this guy. He's kind of a bland loser. He had the strongest servant and he still managed to botch it, just probably because he wasn't good at picking friends. Both Kotomine Kire and his servant, which we'll get into in a sec. Then we've got this guy, Mato Kariya, which I believe is the true hero of justice, because no matter what your goal is, if you have to endure pain and end up looking like this, dog, you have my vote. You know what? You are the hero. And while he does have really based motives, I'm not sure that Sakura does anything in Unlimited Blade Works other than get kidnapped. And so I went onto the wiki to read more about her. What the fuck are all of these spanning timelines? Like, what is going on? Am I supposed to watch/read more? I mean, you guys let me know. It was so confusing. Anyway, back to Mato Kariya. Again, there's not too much to talk about him, but this guy is the dude who does everything last minute because he's not really a mage. He had his own goals, and then he was like, man, I need power ASAP. Power ASAP did not work. Next up, we've got this guy. I'm just gonna call him KTH Archal because I'm not really sure how to pronounce the rest of him, but he's a narcissist, which is super based. He's English. Super cringe. Just kidding, I love all my UK watchers. Seriously though, a couple things. First of all, everything goes wrong for this guy. First of all, he doesn't summon the only person that he wanted to summon. His wife takes his swagger after taking his servant. She doesn't even love him, and I mean, it makes sense. Look at what the guy looks like. No offense, fugly devil. He's unbeatable defense, gets beaten by a fucking gun, and then he dies to his own servant. That is what he does in the show. But even after all of that, I don't care though, because I don't like him. He's just fucking annoying in the series. I don't like what he looks like. I don't like looking at him. Get him off my screen. The tangent I wanted to discuss though is sometimes in anime, people will speak in English Why? It's just so cringe. And I'm not even saying it's cringe because Japanese people speak English poorly or anything. It's just anyone watching sub-Japanese wants to hear Japanese, including people in Japan. They probably want to hear Japanese, right? I mean, I don't know. It's just cringe to me. Then we've got Waiver Velvet. Speaking of Japanese, he speaks pretty good Japanese for an English kid. He's a master at gaslighting old people. That's probably the biggest feat in the entire show that he does. And he has an inferiority complex. He's short-tempered. He's also narcissistic until he mates the GOAT, Ryder. And boy, oh boy, is Ryder a character. This guy was fucking awesome. And Waiver pissed me off throughout the show, but he got better by the end because he spent so much time with Ryder. That's all I'll say. And while finding all these pictures for Waiver, I also realized that he makes a little cameo in Unlimited Blade Works. That's never really explained, but cool. The final master we have to talk about is Ryunosuke, who does have a last name, but I don't ever remember it being revealed in the show. But bro killed 42 people before the show even started. And there were no suspicions of him. Police, what the fuck are you doing? This dude is insane. He's not chill, but just based off of his personality. I know what anime watchers are like. I guarantee people like him. He accidentally entered a war. How the fuck do you do that? And yes, I'm being facetious here because the war makes him enter, but man, he just doesn't do enough to talk about. I'm glad he died. He deserved it. Fuck this dude. But now that we talked about all the masters, we can talk about their servants also in order. And we've got Saber Artura. I think she's a well-done good character. She's the only pure good character in the show. She is a protagonist. She's just a little boring in my opinion. And while I was doing research and creating the slide deck, I realized that a lot of people are actually pissed about how Saber was treated in Fate Zero, but I can't speak on that. But let me just say, for all the gassing up done about her as the strongest servant, she sure does fucking lose a lot, man. She's a punching bag, dog. She has probably the most fights in the series and wins definitively like maybe one of them, probably 0 of them. Next up, because she's King Arthur, you would imagine that she has really powerful Excalibur abilities, but no. She's a swordsman who shoots a laser. That's incredibly powerful. That's kind of cool. And yeah, I'm shitting on her a little bit, but I like her as a character. She's interesting to follow. At least she's way cooler than 7 Deadly Sins Arthur. Holy fuck. Loser. Oh yeah, and she also has the ability to heal for some reason. I can imagine that if I went really deep into the Fate lore, I could realize that maybe she's a Mary Sue. I'm not entirely sure. She's a pretty good character. Maybe 7, 8 out of 10, 7. The next servant we can talk about is Assassin, whom I've never heard of, and he's Kire's servant. He has a great showing of getting murked by Gilgamesh in like the first episode. This is fitting because he sucks ass. When I first saw Assassin, I was like, dude, this character is gonna be so gas. And then he kept taking L's and doing nothing. At least his noble phantasm is the ability to split into a bunch of different assassins. Buddy, 0 times anything is still 0. It just doesn't work. I don't know how strong this servant is in extended lore, but man, in my opinion, this dude is the legitimate definition of fodder. Accomplishes fucking nothing. And then of course, we've got Archer. We've got Gilgamesh. And I'm gonna be honest, for a while as I was watching this, I was like, yeah, this dude is literally me. That's the kind of guy I am. Until I realized he's also kind of psycho. But you know what? Some of his mentalities, some of his personality traits, I'm like, yeah, man. If I was a servant, I'd be Gilgy. Regardless of his insanity, which is absolutely expanded upon in Unlimited Blade Works, he's also the strongest servant easily. King of Heroes, that alone sounds fucking sick. Not only that, but I like the fact that he's so grand outside of the chalice, so grand outside of every other servant, that he can just basically say fuck off to his master and do whatever he wants. I gotta say though, Archer is a little bit of a misnomer, but we'll let it slide because it's Gilgamesh. Because Gates of Babylon, there ain't no fucking archery going on there, man. It's just a fucking deluge of weapons, all of which aren't even arrows. So, but as we said, he's the strongest servant. Unfortunately, he does no diff Rider. That made me pretty sad. But his voice actor goes fucking crazy. Gilgamesh, pretty fun character to follow. Then we've got Berserker, who turns out to be Lancelot, which is probably the easiest thing you can call in your life, but then again, you don't really watch Fate Zero just for the story implications. I was really high on him in the introduction, but he was in 2 whole fights, both of which he just lost. His noble phantasm is cool, I guess, but is it even strong? Because the best thing we see him do is Florida Man steals fighter jet and fights monster. The other thing we see him do is Florida Man grabs lamp pole. And loses. Again, we don't really see him enough, and his master was just ultimately ass, even though he's the real hero of justice. Next up, we've got Lancer. I'm not gonna try to pronounce his name, but Lancer, all I can say is fate / number of people who knew who the fuck this was. Listen, I'm as big brain as anyone you've ever met, and I've never fucking heard of this person. I'm sorry, Irish people. Actually, no Irish people watch my videos because Irish people don't watch anime. I don't know. I don't fucking know. Point is though, I did not care for him at all. I can see why you might think he's a cool character, but his narrative implications just weren't interesting enough, but I will acknowledge his strength. He was really strong and he definitely had a win con against anyone except Gilgamesh. And I've come to find that in Fate, it's really fucking matchup dependent. Like, Ryder could never beat Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh could lose to whoever he loses to in Unlimited Blade Works, but man, it's so matchup dependent. And listen, his whole thing is being a hot anime guy, but for a hot anime guy, I was expecting a little bit more, man. Like, I don't even know if he's particularly hot compared to the other Fate characters. Like, dude, Gilgamesh is low-key hotter than this guy. The fact that he has a beauty mark, that's what makes him hot? Come on. At least he killed Kenneth. Fuck that, dude. And of course, we get to everyone's favorite, Ryder, Iskander, Alexander the Great, an actual tall human being. Let's be honest, this dude was the most interesting because he was strong as fuck, he had a fun personality, he had a cool power, he had it all. Really fun scenes. But his strongest power was the ability to make every scene with Waiver bearable. In fact, again, it made me start liking Waiver because I'd see Ryder more. And he's super based. I like these types of characters that aren't even in it for like the whole glory. He doesn't care about the Grail. He just wants to conquer. He's sticking true to himself as Alexander the Great. His noble phantasm was super broken too. It's unfortunate that he ran into fucking Ea, which I've never heard of, which is just a reality warp kill, I guess? He has fun scenes, fun dialogue, a fun personality, a fun fighting style. Overall, he's just fun. You can't really beat that in terms of characters. And last, and certainly least, we've got Castor. This dude is fucking ugly. I hate looking at him. Get off my stream. You look like the Bat Devil, and you know what I think about the Bat Devil. And he isn't only ugly. He also kills children, which is pretty uncool. It's like a 1A, 1B thing, which is worse. You know what I'm saying? But I did some research about who the fuck this dude was, and his real life persona was like this as well, which makes me hate Castor even more. But low-key, he seemed pretty strong in theory. He was just ass in practice. He had like devil spawn fighting for him, and managed to accomplish nothing other than beating like 6-year-olds. So, nice job, Castor. Get the fuck off my screen. So in conclusion, what can we say about Fate Zero? From what I've heard of Fate, I was pleasantly surprised. I've heard a lot of really cringe things, but it was enjoyable all the way through. I heard a lot of things like, dude, you watch Fate for the fights and the story isn't that good. The story is okay. It's compelling enough to keep going, and the characters are fine too. The cast was a little hit or miss, but the top brass were super fun. But in regards to the fights, absolutely true. The animation just goes fucking nasty crazy. I don't know exactly when this was made, maybe like 2015 is my guess. But man, it looks fucking good, just like you do. I need to hammer this point home. If I was a servant, I'd be Gilgamesh for sure. Literally me. Actually, maybe I shouldn't be. He's just not a good guy. But now that I said that, I'm not gonna re-record this. The anime needs more explanation. I found myself like 30% of the time wondering what the fuck is going on. The only way to get info is by, I guess, reading the light novel or going to the wiki. Not a huge fan of when media does this, but that's okay. The story wasn't too complex for my little brain to follow anyway. And the morally gray characters are done super well. There's just a lot of them. Arturia is like the only good character. Everyone else is like, eh. It'd be nice to have more straight villains, I guess. But that being said, overall, I actually think I liked it better than Unlimited Blade Works. The only thing Unlimited Blade Works has over this is Shiro as a character. So thank you for making me watch Fate. And also thank you for considering liking and subscribing the video if you enjoyed. Alright, here it is. Fate PR team. Leave comments down below. How did I do? What are my thoughts on the characters? Are they all L's? What does the community think? I'm not part of that community for real, but I had a good time watching. I hope you enjoyed. I love talking about different series and playing different games with you guys, so if you have any suggestions, leave those down below as well. You are looking so attractive, as always. It's because you're subscribed to the channel. Goodbye, my icy blue-eyed majesty.